Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Center for Practical Spirituality. I know that the Spurs lost. So I'm going to just say this wonderful, uplifting thought about, our Spurs losing. Our Spurs are such an absolutely phenomenal team that even in losing, we end up being really winners because we are able to see and understand that we have next year and that we're going to have other opportunities and that we really didn't lose. I mean, look at all that we actually did win. We won in the sense of being able to come together as a community. We were able to win because there was a lot of really positive influences that actually occurred. We were able to win because of the fact that, we have fans that are absolutely fantastic, and we are, from the get-go, the number one thing about Spurs fans is that we are ride or die. I mean, regardless if they are winning or losing, we're going to be there for them. And so I just, I know that they are, we were a little disappointed, most definitely. But you know what? It's kind of like, okay, so we fell. We move forward. What do? We move forward. It's kind of like, we know what it is, to win, to be winners. I mean, we experienced that just a few weeks ago. And so, but we're such a young group right now. I mean, they've reinvented, put a whole new entire, wonderful group together of young men. And I'm going to say this, it's kind of like, I feel that we are fantastic and that we're only going to get better. So let's go ahead and take the negative and make it into a positive, especially for our Go Spurs Go. So let us go ahead and get started, and let's begin with our statement of being. God is all, both visible and invisible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And so it is. And so it is. Excuse me, I have to clear my throat real quick, like. And so I've had the giggles this whole entire afternoon. Sorry, I'm having to adjust this wonderful little iPad that I have here. There we go. Hopefully it won't keep on going down. So I may have to, kind of like get it a little adjusted, what can I say? Okay, so, this past week has been very interesting. We ended up having a lot of wonderful showers, and we've ended up being, tested in different ways. And so right now, I'm going to go ahead and give a kind reminder to everybody that what is actually happening right now is we're going into the pre-retrograde moment in time. And in June, which is, we're there already, we are going to have the retrograde. And of course it goes for 2 weeks, and then we have the post-retrograde. And so during this time, we have to start preparing. We have to start acknowledging that, our phones are going to be a little bit messed up. Our computers are going to be a little bit messed up. Our communication, we're going to state, claim, and proclaim that it's going to be a positive and good, and that we'll be able to communicate with each other effectively. But just be patient, okay? Remember, during retrograde, don't sign anything, on the dotted line. Don't go buying vehicles and all of these other different things, so on and so forth, because what ends up happening is that you're having to look at it from a different perspective. You're having to read the fine print. You're having to, make sure that you are up and up with whatever it is, whatever dealings that you're actually going to be doing. Many times, whenever you do something during retrograde, what ends up happening is that you look at it again after post retrograde and everything is over and done with, and you like, man, I should have just waited. I should have done it this way. So just the precursor to Mercury in retrograde. It's kind of like, be very vigilant. Start doing all of those things that you want to take care of right now. And then also remember that during the retrograde, you're reorganizing, you are rejuvenating, you are replenishing, you are renewing, you are all the re's, all of those, rebooting. You are going to be doing all the re's. So make sure that you're looking at that and that you're conscious of it. And let me see, did somebody send me something? I have a feeling somebody sent me something. Okay, perfect, not a problem. Okay, so today's wonderful Uplifting the Soul topic is going to be abounds upon us, and that is going to be love. What am I thinking of? Anyway, back at the ranch. Love never abandons us. Love never abandons us. And it abounds and abounds and abounds and abounds. In sobriety, all that we are to expect of spiritual awakening. No sobriety is only a bare beginning. It is only the first gift of the first awakening. If more gifts are to be received, our awakening has to go on. Bill W. And with Ernest Holmes, he states the following: just keep right on knocking at the doorway of your consciousness until every no becomes a yes, and every negation an affirmation, every fear a faith. When we are looking that love never abandons us, when love is with us at all times, we are to remember that just keep right on knocking at the door of your consciousness until every no becomes a yes. What does that mean? So, when I was younger, many moons ago, my focus and what I was, in many senses, trained to think of was poverty. Okay? It was a poverty consciousness. And so, as you get older and you get into truth principles, the number one thing that they ask you to work on is your own prosperity consciousness. And so, when you start working on your prosperity consciousness, you understand and you know that, avalanches of abundance comes to you, through you, as you. When you start, vibrating and very easily and effortlessly seeing, those avalanches of abundance. And the abundance that I'm speaking of is not just financial abundance. When you allow the avalanches of abundance, of love, of finances, of friendships, of a great job, of, seen or unseen, known or unknown, conscious or subconscious sources that are filtering and sending you, wonderful love and joy and monetary compensation, then you're opening yourself up to the blessings, okay? So many times we think, well, the only way I'm going to be able to receive, quote unquote, money is just through my job, okay? Or the only way I'm going to be able to receive money is just through, the side gig that I'm doing. Well, you're limiting yourself. Oh, the only way that I can have really wonderful and beautiful relationships is, with my husband or with my wife or with my brothers and sisters. You're limiting yourself, okay? You want to have, one of the things that I learned is that we are to have different baskets full of eggs, okay? The baskets that we are all to have, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. So one day at my apartment, many moons ago, I'm talking about a good 20, 25, maybe even 30 years ago, I I had put a basket, okay, and the basket was hanging from the ceiling, if I'm not mistaken. I think I had done it that way. And so, of course, I did not know that I really needed to find, a good stud, where I could put it into. Well, I went ahead and I put it up there, and it was a nice little basket, and I decided to put todos los huevos inside the basket. I put all the eggs that I had bought into that basket. I'd taken off, came back. I had gone to school or whatever it was that I had gone to do. I get home. I go into my kitchen. Guess where the basket was at? The basket was on the floor. And guess what had cracked? All of the eggs. And then I looked at all the eggs and I said, oh my God, they're all cracked. There was only maybe about one or two that did not get cracked. Okay. God only knows why. And so there you had Katrina, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night, cleaning up all those eggs, and I learned, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And so whenever you don't put all your eggs in one basket, then you have different places that you can kind of, go and it's like, look for those eggs. Those eggs are going to be, your prosperity, your friendships, your self-love, your care, so for instance, don't just have one set pocket full of friends and it's just one set and that's it. No, I have close friends that I can say it's kind of like, what? They are the ones that I can lean on. It's kind of like I can call them at 2:00 in the morning and they're going to be there for me. And so that's one set. Then I have another set, that are much younger than me. I'm talking about they're Gen Zers, okay? And so, of course, I'm cracking up laughing with them because they're just like, Miss Ornelas, you really need to say hello to that lawyer friend of yours because, it's like, I think it would be great. And I'm sitting there going like, I don't think so. It's kind of like, so, no. And, and then they'll tell me like, oh, well, Miss Ornelas, you really, and I'm like, I know, They're the ones that are encouraging, and they're saying, it's kind of like, oh my God, go and do, live your best life. And I'm already living my best life. I love my life, and it's an invitation. But at the same time, I'm like going, wait, hold it. Nope, I'm not that age. I'm at a different goals of my life at this point, okay? Still very youthful, but a different point in my life. So then I have the older crowd, okay? Those that are much older than me. And you know what they're wanting? They're wanting for me to go onto a cruise. They want for me to go on a cruise, vacation cruise. And I'm sitting back and I'm like going, the only thing I want is just my bed in my house and just to sit back and just relax. But for them, they're wanting that last hoorah. So you have all these different friends and all these different baskets with different types of, love and joy and happiness. So, you also want to nurture those relationships, okay? You have to also deposit love and joy and finances and all of these wonderful things into those different little baskets, of love that you have out there. Always have more than just one basket. Because if, take my advice. I put all of my eggs in one basket and they came tumbling down and they all broke except two. Except two. Learn to have different little baskets in your life, okay? Now, here it says, addiction. Be it to substances, behaviors, or patterns of attachment. It not merely a habit of the body or mind. It is a spiritual invitation to discover what our heart truly seeks. At its core, addiction reflects a deep longing for a connection, for love and safety. Things the soul naturally yearns for, but sometimes misunderstands. When we become bound to anything outside of ourselves as a source of fulfillment. We search for love in places that cannot ultimately satisfy us. Many recovery traditions, including spiritual pathways and 12-step approaches, recognize that people often become powerless over an addiction because their deeper spirit has not yet been fully acknowledged and embraced. Spiritually understood, love is a divine current that animates life, the unconditional presence that never abandons us, even in struggle. In spiritual recovery work, healing begins not with resisting addiction through force, no, but with opening our hearts to the source of all love that dwells within each and every one of us. That does not mean pretending there is no pain or struggle. Rather, it means inviting love into the places where we feel scared, weak, and alone. How many of us have experienced feeling, scared, weak, and alone? When divine love is present, we realize addiction is not an enemy to be conquered by sheer will, no, but a teacher guiding us to surrender our false sources of security and rest in Spirit's embrace. Bring conscious love into the space where you feel the pull of addiction. Love does not feed the addiction. It feeds the wound beneath it. Let me read that again. Bring conscious loving into the spaces where you feel the pull of addiction. Love does not feed the addiction. It feeds the wound beneath it. The place where your heart longs to be seen. I release what binds me and I open to the divine love that heals, restores, and renews my life. As I was talking in reference to our different baskets, I was very fortunate that I had during the 3 different times in my life that I've had to deal with death, dying, grief, and loss. And there's been more instances. And so one of the things that I realized and that I saw in my life was that I had different people or different baskets, that I had certain people in one basket and other people in another basket, and so on and so forth. And so that ended up being my source. And I knew it's kind of like, okay, who can I call? Or who's the person that I can pick up the phone and that I can talk to them in reference to the pain that I'm feeling right now? Or who would understand, the fear that I'm feeling right now? Or who would understand, the joy that I'm feeling right now? Who would actually be joyous with me and not jealous of me as I'm sharing this good news? So you have to know your friends. You have to know, who you can share certain things with. Don't always put all of your eggs in one basket. If there was anything that I learned, it was to nurture the relationships. How do you do that? How do you nurture your relationships? Because love never abandons us. And so one of the number one ways is by simply picking up the phone and calling that person. Another way is by writing a note. Another way is by actually carving time out so that you can spend time with that person. Whatever it may be, but you are going to spend some quality time with them, asking them, so what are your interests? What's going on right now? What has been your week? What has been the great times that, what are some of the great events that just happened this past week? What are the non-great events? How can we help you? How can I pray for you? How can I visit with you? What can I do? How can I be of service? See, many times, but if you are not, nurturing, those relationships, then what ends up happening is that you are constantly, you're not depositing into those relationships. And the only thing that you're doing is you're just withdrawing. And you're just withdrawing. And you're just withdrawing. When you constantly withdraw, eventually there's not going to be anything left. You're going to hit a zero balance. And then eventually you're going to start going into the negative. -1, -2, -20, -15, negative, whatever it is. And you're going into the negative. What does that mean whenever you're going into the negative? It means that you never redeposited into that relationship. You never nurtured that relationship in love, in joy, in, giving encouragement, in being a good listener, in, sending that positive vibe and saying, hey, I was thinking about you today, and excuse me, sorry. It's like I guess my last night I was up, kind of praying for the Spurs. What can I tell you? So, in many senses, what ends up happening is that we are not putting enough into those baskets. And so, were you getting... So I have somebody here that's praying for me. And so he's, and so I'm over here struggling, going like, why am I like all of a sudden having to yawn?
Take this moment to add Bashar's definition of abundance is the ability to do what's needed when it's needed.
Bashar says that abundance is to do what is to do what you're needing to do when it's needed. And the capabilities that, like for instance, whenever I get called and in abundance, I mean, it's like if people call me and they say, Katrina, we need somebody to, to officiate a wedding or officiate a funeral, it's not, I mean, that's above and beyond, but that's something that I'm able to do. And, it's kind of like, and right there and then, if I'm able to do it, I mean, all of a sudden I'm like going, yes, I can. And I put it down and I show up. And so when we are, that's the abundance of, abundance of love, abundance of light, abundance of, avalanches of abundance. So today, as I was driving by, I have a little gnat driving me nuts anyway. So today, as I was driving by, there was this gentleman, at the bridge in many senses. And so I was heading over here and he had a sign that said, money for food or for food or thank you for food. Or I don't know. Anyway, whatever it said. So I looked and I was like, oh, I've got this lunch stuff, that I had gotten and I had only eaten like part of it. But it was still a good portion of that food was in there. So I grabbed it and I rolled down the window and I said, this is what I have for you, mijo. And he goes, thank you. And I was like, thank God. Because right now it's kind of like, I already have some stuff in my refrigerator that I'll be able to munch on, for the rest of the week and everything else. And so I was like, thank God it went to a person that was going to appreciate it. Okay. You never know what little egg you have, that golden egg that you have that's just priceless, and how you can bless that person, Many times I'll give them $1. Lots of times I'll give them, it's like, that's the first time that I've actually done food. It's kind of like, and, and then there's times that what you want to do is you want to do a smile. That's also a gift. A gentleman ended up saying, there was a story, and I'm going to share this. Love never abandons us, okay? Remember that. So this gentleman was driving down the road. He saw this lady walking down the road. He took his family, which is his wife and his 2 kids, dropped them off over at church. He turned to his wife and he says, something tells me to go and help that lady. So he went and he helped that lady. And he said, hey, he goes, are you going up the road? She goes, yes. She goes, I need to put gas into my car, and so then they started talking as they were driving to the gas station. The gentleman, what he did was he went ahead and put gas into the little gas little tank that she had with her, and then he went ahead and he gave her like whatever cash money he had on him, and he gave it to her. He took her back, and then she remembered his name, and and they exchanged just names. That's it. They go separate ways. A few years later, or maybe about a year later, all of a sudden, that gentleman, his mother, got sick. And she eventually needed a caregiver. So what ended up happening is that they got a caregiving service to come out to the house. And this had to have been years, quite a few years later. But anyway, somebody was supposed to come over to the house and take care of his mom. The initial lady that was supposed to show up did not show up. So then all of a sudden, this other lady showed up, and she's there, and she's, kind of talking and everything, and then he's talking, and then he says his name and the name of his church for whatever reason. I don't know why. And the lady says, there was a gentleman that actually helped me. I was on the side of the road and helped me with the gas and with a couple of bucks. And man, I'll never forget the graciousness of that person, because that helped me, so that I could have the career that I have today. And the man just stood there and just looked at her, and he said, that was me. That's me. Are you da 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 da? And she goes, yes. And she ended up becoming the caregiver to his mom up until the end. And then the family, what they did was they did a fundraiser, and then they were able to help her out, and she was able to get a home. She was able to get more established. She was able to then, they opened up a caregiving, provider service around as well. From that one encounter, that man listened to Spirit telling him, go back and help her. And then by a few years later, it's like that lady ended up helping his mother. And then they ended up now helping all of these people that they're now helping because of that agency that they're doing. You never know. You just never know. It's like, ay, Dios mío, I wish we all would remember. It's kind of like, nurture your baskets. And remember that love never abandons us. Never, ever. Even when we're walking through the valley of the shadow of death, love is right there with us. You have to understand. It's kind of like you are the captain of your ship. Steer it well. Ask, seek, and knock. And I release what binds me, and I open to the divine love that heals, restores, and renews my life. Each of us are worthy of having an absolutely phenomenal and beautiful life. I'm gonna talk about this for real quick, because it just popped into my brain. There are some people in this world, in the United States especially, in some parts of this world, they're always going like, oh my gosh, it's like, I can't believe they live in that, or they're like, I can't go in there. It's like, it's not posh enough and all this other stuff. The other day, I was just kind of perusing through some places, and When I was 23, 24 years old, no, 22, 23 years old, I went to Guatemala and Honduras. And I was able to see for firsthand, with my own eyes, what a third world country and the fourth world country look like. Well, the other night, as I was perusing, through our wonderful social media, this one young man was filming, and the house, he says, "Oh, this is my house." His house was dirt as a floor and aluminum, just kind of like put together with boards. And so, you could hear that there was rain. And so that was the house. Very, very, very humble. There was 3 kids out there. His mother was doing some things in the little home. And there was a lot of, I just sat back and I thought to myself, man, I live in a mansion in comparison to. And at that split second, I was like, you know what? I am thankful. I am so, so, so thankful. With a split second, I understood how rich I truly am. And I really want for all of us to remember, it's kind of like, it's not about the money. Not at all. It is about those that you're surrounded by. Many times, how rich are we really? Because there are some people that are millionaires. Millionaires. Tienen millones. Billones. Trillón, whatever. And they have never smiled in their life. But yet, when you're out there in the campos, you're out there with some different people that are out in the fields or working, or you're just outside in the atrium, or you're outside with your dogs or your cats or your animals, or, whatever it is. And you're smiling, not because of the amount of money that you have, but because of the fact that you feel the love. You feel alive. You are just, all of a sudden you understand. How fortunate you truly are. That's when you understand that even when you are in the middle of the worst, that love never abandons you. I saw a gentleman, that was over in Tel Aviv, and he had gotten hit by a bomb, but he was able to make it to his graduation. He was dancing. He had a thing on his nose and I don't know what else, but he was dancing. Thrilled that he was graduating. He had just gotten bombed, ladies and gentlemen. Bombed. And he was celebrating that he was able to walk down that stage. He got a standing ovation because they knew that he had been fighting in the war. The recent war, by the way. And I was in awe. I was like, now that is perseverance. Now that is being grateful. Now that is being in gratitude. And that right there, wow, that is admirable. So today, my invitation to all of you is love never abandons you. What are you grateful for? How are you nurturing the little eggs in your different little baskets that you have? How are you nurturing them? For he is our peace, who hath made both one, and hath broken down the middle wall of partition, that he might reconcile but unto God in one body. What are we all if we are not all one body? We are all one. Here in San Antonio, I'm telling you, the Spurs did that to us. I mean, did you guys see over there in Calamaro at the rim, or wherever they were all celebrating? All of them out there. All of them. And I mean, it was all different races, nationalities, and, they were all just Spurs fans. They didn't care where they lived. They didn't care what. They were all there. Then you come over here to the south side, same thing. Then you go downtown. I mean, it's everybody. And it's what? It's unity. So that's what I want for all of us to remember. It is the spirit that quickeneth. The body without the spirit is dead. That's in James 2:26. There is one body and one spirit in Ephesians 4:4. There is one body and one spirit. We are all one body and one spirit. Even the worst of the worst, they're still a part of us. I choose to be loving and kind and wonderful, and then every once in a while, I'm not. And that's for me to bear, but I have to remember to love and to care and to be there for the least of my people. The Lord is always very good to us. Very good to us. If you can bless others, do it. Even if it is with you just smiling. Even if it is 50 cents. Even if it is a blessing. Even if it is, Lord, please be with that person right here, right now. Even if it is you, just, reassuring them you are not alone. If there's anything that I understand, is that we all want to be accepted and loved. Accepted and loved. And those that are in anger and fear and hatred and everything else, I guarantee you, whenever you get down to the nitty-gritty of things, they want to be accepted and loved. That's what they want. Thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for listening to me, talking about all these different things. Thank you for being a Spurs fan, and we continue to send love and light to all of you and uplift your heart's desires and surround you with that love that just gives you the courage to persevere. And if you're going through some hard times, ask. You have to ask. What's the worst that people are going to say? No. So then you ask again. What's the worst that's going to happen? They say no. Well, then you ask again. Do you know how many times Kentucky Fried Chicken was denied? It's kind of like it was in the thousands. It was a heck of a... there were so many times that he got denied. And then finally, boom, he was accepted. And now we have what? Kentucky Fried Chicken, honey. I'm sorry, that's still one of my favorite chickens. Then the other one is Church's. That one's good chicken. All of them have original recipes in their own right. What's your original recipe? What is your gift to this world? Because you are a blessing to all people, and all people are a blessing to you. So at this time, I'd like for all of us to hold our tithes and our offerings in our hands, and for us to say together, and if you have any special prayer requests, please put them into the thread. And so we say together, divine love in me, as me, and through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And so it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, please go forward and just, enjoy and be a blessing to all people, and, make a difference. Make a difference in your life. Make a difference in somebody else's life. Send a card saying thank you for, being such a good friend. Send a, send somebody, a little note, or just kind of like pick up text somebody and say, hey, I was thinking about you, or whatever the case may be. But reach out. There are so many people, there are so many elderly out there that are needing someone to just be with them. There are so many children out there that are really needing to be loved and cared for. So I think it's time. It's time for us to, to go beyond our own noses and to go beyond our own problems and to be there for others as well. Okay? You can do this. I know you can. I know you can. So at this time, I'd like for us to go ahead and just kind of remember that you are a blessing to all people and all people are a blessing to you. And at this moment, may the power of the Father, the love of the Son, and the freedom of the Holy Spirit be with you today and always. And so it is. And so it is. I'm ready for a miracle. Ready for a miracle. I'm ready for a miracle today. I've got my mind in tune for one. I'm ready to experience one. I'm ready for a miracle today. My mind is open, ready to receive it. My heart is opened all the way. I do accept a miracle. I do accept a miracle. I do accept a miracle today. I do receive a miracle. I do receive a miracle. I do receive a miracle today. Very good, very good. Yay! I love you guys. Take care, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.